Well, guys, we're going to just jump right into it. Say hello to the ISF 8-speed transmission, also known as an AA80E. Obviously, that car has an A340, which is what naturally came in it. Now, you can see how big this transmission is, but it also has the bell housing built into it. So there's nothing. It's all one solid piece, so it doesn't unbolt from anywhere. It's one casted solid unit. You can actually buy a new case for these two to this day, and they still sell this transmission. Now, this comes in the ISF, the RCF, GSF, and I think something else. Now, they also make the AA80E for the, oh my God, they sell for I think a couple four-wheel drive vehicles. It comes in the LS sedan too, but it's not the same as the one that comes in the ISF in the fact that those are mostly all-wheel drive, some are rear-wheel drive, but there's some little magic inside of these make these a little bit stronger and better. There's only 2 connectors on this transmission, which makes this really awesome also. It only has this big 30-pin connector here, okay, and then your standard Prindle, just like the A340. Now the connector is slightly different, but it has the same amount of wiring, uses the same contraption here to put it in gear, and it has a very similar location to where the factory bungs are for the pressure line. So they also screw in here, which I'm going to thread something in them today and kind of figure that out. They've got a bunch of ports on it. Again, there's a lot more I'm going to be going over and showing, but this is pretty awesome. This also has a converter here. Let's go around here. This also came with the converter. Just strung in there right now. So I'm trying to figure out how we're going to do this or how I'm going to use it. I got to get a custom adapter plate made. This is also the breather for it. It usually has a hose that comes off the end here, but I guess it's just not with it. Not a big deal. I'm not even sure if I'll be able to have this and fit it in the tunnel. I might have to remove it and figure out something to come directly off the side here. Again, we'll find out when that time comes. I don't know what I need to grind off of it, if any of these tabs need ground down, if any of this needs ground. I guess we'll find out. Stuff in the back shouldn't be an issue. Yeah, actually came with the mount too, which I do like. I was happy about that. Yeah, very, very simple. But I'm going to give out part numbers for the connectors, which you guys need for that. I'm going to show you guys some of my spreadsheet work once it's all done. So you guys know what to order, where to get it, how to get it. This also comes with a plastic pan. It's the only thing I'm not really keen on. It has a plastic pan instead of metal. It's just okay. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I don't know if in the future that's going to be a leak issue. As we know in the A340, they have to be kind of braced up to not crack or have issues. Now it uses a 3-bolt design, as you can see here, and it has a slide-on shaft just like a A340. So I'm just going to have a custom donut made for it, which again, not a big deal. Slide on, bolt it on. Not a problem. But what I want to do next here is I want to go ahead and unbolt this here and here, and then figure out what the thread pattern is, because I'm obviously going to use AN fittings off this, and I think I'm actually get pretty lucky that I have more room on the side. Now, I am worried that this is going to hit here. I might have to grind all this off because I'm afraid this might hit against my downpipe, but again, I don't need this because this is where, unfortunately, there's one downside. This is where the factory starter goes, which is on the opposite side of a Supra. Now, these lines at least are the same as an A340. The Prindle's the same, so we have a lot going for us here already. It used a lot of the same strategy and stuff, so we have a lot going. So if this is the worst, I can deal with that again. I can lop this off if needed. We'll find out if that's necessary. Again, like I don't need this. If this is going to hit, I can grind that down. This makes it really simple. Don't need this here. But again, I don't think that's going to be a problem. The only area that's going to be a problem is up here where it gets really tight close to the engine. And yeah, I know there's someone else out there that makes something for this to adapt it up, but I want to try and get something here in the US so it's accessible to everybody. But yeah, let's get those fittings off and see what the thread pattern is. All right, so I actually bought this kit years ago. I think I talked about it multiple times on the channel if you're new here. But this is something you get on Amazon. It comes on like a string, but I cut the string so I can use it for putting it on the engine or on a block or just trying to figure out a thread in general. But it has the male and the female side on it. So it worked out great for this. So both the fittings, so there's 2 fittings off it, the return and the feed, they're the same. As you can see, they're literally identical. And they are in M14, so you get M14 by 1.5. So you're going to need an M14 by 1.5 to 6 AN orb fitting. It does look like it has a crush washer and an O-ring. Super weird. I haven't seen that before, but not a big deal. You can see it really right here. See how the crush washer here? And there's an O-ring on it. So I guess it's just how factory did it. Not a big deal. I don't think it's necessary, being honest, but what do I know? And then from there, you're just gonna have to work with it until I get next videos out and see how much of an angle needs to come out. I'm gonna dig through my orb fittings and try and see, because you're gonna have to get past this. Again, I really think I'm gonna end up lopping this off, like right there, just gone. I will keep this and this for structural reasons, but this has gotta go. yeah, I just don't think that's gonna last. And I think this will stay, but I'll probably take this stud out because there's gonna be, well, maybe I'll keep it, put a P-clamp on it to hold the wiring for this. The only thing I can think of. But even then, I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, pretty basic setup. Like, it's a very easy trans. Now these all seem to be internal, like you can get into the transmission itself. I need to see which one of these has pressure because I want to see if I can get the pressure sensor off one of these versus it having it in the line itself. One of these has got to be pressure. I would assume, keyword assume, here's a ground strap, by the way, too. So I can just put the pressure sensor, because on the A340 on this side, Larry Previs, how you say his proper name, I apologize. The owner of Sound Performance told me on the A340 I can use a port on this side of the transmission for the A340. Now, the only downside is fourth gear, you can't see it. Again, don't care about that because fourth gear, you should be putting any heavy load on anyways. It's overdrive. So 1 through 3, that's all that matters. One of these has got to be it. But it's just funny because on an A340, you got a sensor here, then you got another one there, and then you get the port here. Now it's all going to be one single connection. Like, there'd be nothing here. So I can ground all this off, smooth everything out, do whatever I need to. I like that there's only literally 2 connectors on this thing. In my opinion, makes life a lot freaking easier. I don't know. It seems like a basic transmission. It does look definitely bigger. What I'll do is this. Actually, let me get my A340 and put it beside this and give it a side-by-side comparison. All right, time for a little side-by-side. Now, right off the bat, this is going to be in 2 ways kind of not a great representation. 2 reasons. 1, no bell housing. Number 2, that's sitting up in that because that thing is so heavy, I can't get it off and try to kick it out without possibly dropping it. And it has a plastic pan. I'm not taking the chance. Plus, it has the 2 things. It's not maybe even that heavy, but it also has a converter in it. It adds the bell housing where this doesn't. So it's obviously bigger, so it probably does have more weight, but it has 2 things added onto it. But overall, like, just looking at it, you can tell it is much bigger. Now, suppose when I did the measurements, it should only be like ½ inch longer than actually the A340. The A340 bell housing really expands out. It gets a lot bigger. But it is just overall just a bigger transmission. Let's just start side by side though. One thing you'll notice right off the bat, there is no dipstick. So this is an internal dipstick, so you don't need that, which is nice. Makes things a little bit simplistic in that nature that you don't have to try about mounting something of that nature or getting in the way. Another thing you notice is 1 plug versus 1, 2, and 3. There's another one there. I believe that's for the factory speed sensor. I guess we could add one. And then we got some clips here and stuff. But that's it. What I wanted to show you too while we're here, with this transmission, I can show you exactly where I have my pressure sensor, which is right here. See this little... See that little port right there? You pull this out and you can put in a pressure sensor right there. Well, the only problem with it is it gets really close to this speed sensor here. It makes it a little bit of a pain in the ass. It was definitely not fun getting it in there because it also kind of gets in the way of this too and then almost hits the body, so you gotta like kind of bring it over. Anyways, it doesn't matter, but you can see there. So you got 2 wires. This is a 12-pin connector, then another 2. So we got a total of 16 wires here. That is a 30-pin connector, but you only use 26. And realistically, I think we're only going to use 20 of them. So we only have to really add 4 wires. That's all I have to add to run down to get this to work, because I'm going to convert this and this to solenoid controller. So I'm just going to depin these, repin them to go here. Obviously, I'm going to have to extend the wiring for this one. To go into the connector that's going to go over there, and then I'm going to have to run a wiring whip of some sort into the car and out to go to the connector itself. There's a couple things. I've talked to Sean over at Sean Tuned, who does a lot of Haltech stuff. He's been fantastic. I'll talk on him a little bit more here, that what he used and did not use. Now, that depends, as those are the internal speed sensors, but he didn't see a necessity for it. He says he hasn't used them at all yet. But you can see they're similar. It's just one's a lot bigger than the other, but it's very, very similar. Like I said, you can see that boom there. Like both the electrical ports are very close. I do like that there's only 1 port on this side, so you don't have to worry about clip here. It's 1 connector and done, and that's it. Again, it uses a 3-bolt design on both of them from the rear end of it. Again, very, very similar. And again, look at the Prindle. So this is your park, reverse, neutral, drive, and low here. Goes like that. Look at this one. Super, super similar. Very similar. The connector is a little bit smaller on this one. It's still a 9-pin. This is 9-pin, but the connector is just much bigger. So we'll just have to depin it. Probably have to put new pins on it. Hopefully I have enough wiring there. I don't have to extend it. If I do, not a big deal, but you can see that there. Now, let's move this out. This is why I kind of wanted to keep this here. Keep it on this so I could roll it. So you can make this really easy. Now, if we look at this side here, we can see, I don't know which one is the high side or the high pressure versus the low side pressure, which is feeding or not. But we've got both the ports here and here. Same thing with the A80. They're both on that side or the passenger side of the transmission. Now, the one thing I do like better is they're right beside each other. So boom and boom, right there. I'm hoping, because this one's back here, I only have to shorten this up a little bit, and this one's really up close. I'm hoping that one I won't have to extend or do anything. I'm hoping I can just work off of it. Like I said, these ports here are M14 by 1.5 orb fittings, and then we'll just run a 6A line over to it. And I can keep using the lines I already have. So if you already have an A340, you already have a cooler, and you already have those lines ran, you should be realistically be able to reuse all that stuff, which is awesome. Makes this, again, easier and easier, guys. That's the whole point of this. This is supposed to be very simplistic, using another Toyota Trans in a Toyota vehicle. We're trying to keep it as simple and dummy-proof as possible. Again, this being right here, the same way. It's going to be attached where it has a rod that comes back. Now, I need to figure out if the rod's going to work that I have. I have two other ones from different cars, but we'll see if the Supra one works. I might have to cut it, shorten it, lengthen it. I don't know. This does look like it sits back a little bit further, where you can see here the Prindle on this one sits a lot further forward. It's up here, versus this one, you see it sits further back. So side by side here, if you see, this one sits there, versus that one doesn't sit very close to bell housing. So this realistically on the A340 sitting here, and it's opposite on the A340. So not a big deal. Again, I think that'll be okay. We'll find out once we get it in. Again, this has also been done, again, by the gentleman out in the UK. This was done back in like 2015, so they started like 2013, 14. Unfortunately, the car got totaled and didn't do anything since. Then I saw them they did it in a Lexus IS 300 wagon, but I haven't seen any more on that. So I don't know what's going on. They haven't divulged much information, so I'm just gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna be as transparent as possible with this, as I always am. If I have issues, or if I find problems, or if I find weakness, you guys will know. I'll be your guinea pig per usual. So if something goes wrong, I'm gonna let you know. Nothing wrong with an A340. I wanna make sure this is clear too. I have no qualms with the A340. Honestly, it's beyond impressive for this little Trans how much you can do, especially if you build it. It bolts right up. You don't have to do anything special. If you already have it in your car, you don't have to do anything crazy. Send it down to ATF. Send it down to CNC. Chris Denozio down there, he does a great job building these transmissions. If you send out these guys, get them to build it, and you're done. Like, it just works. It's a great drag transmission. It'll work on the street. Being honest, I want a little bit more. I just do. I want to try something that'll go, wah, ba, ba, ba. Yeah, I want that. I want that on the street. My wife doesn't really drive the darn thing. So if I'm going to drive it, I'm going to enjoy it. I don't care. I know what everyone's going to say. Don't care. So I want to try and give it a shot. I think this is going to be neat. Other thing I wanted to mention, this is the 19 millimeter. To take this off, by the way, to break it loose, and then it just spins off, but I don't think that's critical, but just want to at least tell you guys it was a 19 millimeter, breaks that loose. Thanks again, Also Tools. Y'all the best. Oh, this was completely crusty and black there, so now that's cleaned up. You can tell they like acid wash this thing or something, because it's like it ripped all the stickers off, like the sticker residue, I guess, or like where it used to be, but it washed all the numbers and stuff off of it. So kind of like how this has the numbers on the top. This didn't, and you can tell where they just obviously couldn't get to it, which was right in this area here. So I just cleaned it up with some LA's Awesome and a brake cleaner with these little Q-tip looking things. The only reason I do that is I don't like working on stuff that's dirty. I can throw it in, won't hurt anything, doesn't change anything, but I'd rather it be clean. So when I am working on it, if I find a leak or something wrong, I'm like, okay, that wasn't like it before. It's easy to find. I even like cleaning out all these little areas just so there's no residue in there and it doesn't leak down after the fact. Like if it just has crud in there, once the engine gets hot, it will leak down, and you'll be like, oh my God, I got a leak. Well, no, you don't. I just realized too, I'm not sure what these were for, but these are through holes, so they go the whole way through to this side. So if you have a leak here, you'll know for sure, because it'll be coming out of there first and foremost, or you'll see it right here. They have it notched for that reason too. If you have a leak, it'll come right out the center of that. And you'll be like, hey, I gotta fix that, because this is, as you can tell, once again, one giant piece of a cast aluminum. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts to it. It's one solid piece. Pretty neat. It's weird not having a bell housing that's detachable like that. So I guess that makes it a little bit more of a pain in the ass. I don't know. But it also makes it a little bit more solid, because you don't have to worry about bolts holding a bell housing on. But then you can't change that stuff out either, because right now it'd be nice if we could get a custom bell housing, so I wouldn't even have this here. But I have a good feeling I'm going to end up lopping this off. I watched a video where I looked up from some old forums where a guy did put this in, but again, it only lasted like 2 weeks. He had to shave down on this side. I'll post up a picture of it here. He had to shave this stuff down here on this side. That was it though. So he did from like here the whole way down. Let's put the transmission down and I'll show you. So I watched the pictures, I looked at the pictures a little closer. You only have to knock off this tab and this tab here to gain room. You don't have to hammer in the chassis at all. So cut this tab off and this one here, just grind it down smooth. And that's it. I thought you had to grind this ridge off, but looking at the pictures, you don't. So knock that and that off. And it's the same with the T56 mag is like that. You just have to, the passenger side has more room than the driver's side for some reason. So that's going to be the only issue. It's definitely going to be tight, but it does fit. So we see have that going for us, guys. We're very fortunate.
All right, let's see how well this works. Been a minute since I've done one of these. I don't ever do in-car videos because I like to drive and enjoy myself. Got my coffee this morning. This Koyo Rad little drink cup, whatever, fits perfect in these auto extrude cup holders. So I go for coffee and stuff. I think it's 20 ounces or 16, but it works out perfect for this. So it doesn't move around. Don't have to worry about falling over. I can have my coffee. God, this car is loud. I put the window up on that side. I don't know if I had to put this one up. We'll find out here. Size is 2.4 inches. Autotech Engineering and everyone else always supplies is 2.2 inch. I assume that's like a GM size. And well, that just doesn't work, right? So kind of screwed me on that. I shouldn't say screwed. Let me take that back. Like, I don't think 2.4 would have worked even. Like, I need the bigger one. Pretty much everyone I talk to, once you get past 8,000 RPMs, you have to run the bigger pulley. So didn't do that. It's my fault. And now I have it on there. I think the damage is already done. So there's nothing I can really do to fix it besides sending it back. posting this, but it just sounds so good, and I love every minute of it. So let's get some cool. I'm gonna shut up now, but I wanted to show you guys like everything works. I don't give you weird things. I can go to a stop, the car idles. I mean, I just don't have to do anything dumb to enjoy the car. And I will say, having a T56 Magnum is like the favorite thing of shifting this car. If I had a V160, I think I'd be okay. Well, every time I drive my buddy Tony's car and he drives this, he's like, dude, there's just no comparison. He switched to the 93, 96 shifter from the 97, 98. He put that new V1 shifty on it, which tightens everything up. He did solid bushings. He did everything, and there's still just slop in the shifter. As you can see, with the T56, there's no slop in the shifter. There's zero. Like, it's just direct. That's downshift. I don't have to like think, it just goes. I don't ever think about shifting. It just goes to the next gear. I have misshifted when I had the old sticky shift set up, but I've never done it with this new Magnum F Grand Race. It hasn't happened. I don't have a problem. And I don't know how to explain that without you physically driving it, because it just seems like, oh, you're just hyping it up, but I'm not. Like, it truly just, it drives that easy. Also having a good clutch, like the McLeod clutch, I know the tilt does well. I'm really keen on this McLeod clutch right now. Now, Branger's Racing is coming out with a new clutch. I'm going to see how it does. This is pretty much at its limits. I bet you if I took it out, it might be glazing over. I could be wrong, but it's probably glazing over some. I'm at kind of its limit. I didn't get the HD 1200 version, which I probably should have years ago. I just didn't know if it would drive worse, so I just was afraid to do so. See, right now, I got to adjust that some. It kind of jumped up a little too much. Now, if I turn the AC off, that's it. Like, it's perfect. So right now I'm in 5th gear. I'm doing 65. The car's at like, well, I can tell you exactly, instead of just guessing off that, what you tell me. I am at 2,500 RPM and 6,500 RPM, or 65 miles an hour in 5th. If I go to 6th right now, it drops down to 1,800 and 65. Like, it's just, I get some people like, oh, I want that, but it
you guys enjoyed that. One thing, I did granny shift there, and I wanted to go a little bit of the car, but one other thing I wanted to mention was I have a boost leak of some sort, or the Mac valve's bad again. I've got my headlight on, so I'm going over the car. I've got random clamps all over. I'm waiting for more of these Phase 2 Motor Trend clamps, so I'm waiting for more of these guys. These have been fantastic. I highly recommend these, but you can see I got a hodgepodge. I got some Phase 2 up there. I got like a random stealth clamp. Then I've got some chrome ones here. I've got T-bolt clamps, which I hate T-bolt clamps. I got a hodgepodge, so I got those on order. So we'll replace everything. They'll be the same clamp, same connector, and I've got extra hose too. I think this one is not sitting on here properly. I think that's another issue. I did find one leak though, right here at the bottom. One of my AN fittings is just a little wet. It's not dripping down or anything, and it's not hateful, but it definitely is leaking, and it looks like it's coming out the actual fitting itself because this is a welded on. So my headlight lamp there's not doing a good job, but we welded this on. I shouldn't say we have bought it this way, welded on. Some people hate that. I like the fact I don't have to worry about a gasket, and it's not a problem this way. I got a little bit of a leak there. It looks like coming out of this AN fitting. Might just need cranked down because it's very minimal. Over here we look Gucci. Everything else looks good. No leaks at the pan, nothing at the power steering rack like I thought I did. Try not to hit this. This is powder coated, so I have this brake cleaner on here, so I'm not trying to hit that a lot because that will, over time, eat away at that. Now, anything anodized, brake cleaner is safe on. I repeat, it is safe on anodized items, but it is not safe on powder coat. It is resistant, but it will eat away at the powder coat over time. Think of it like hardened paint. It's much, much harder paint, but it still will eat away at that paint over time. So just remember that. Yeah, everything else is okay? So cool. Guys, again, thank you very much for tuning in today. A little bit of everything. We've talked about the ISF trans. We got to go for a drive in the car, and I found an oily. On next week's episode of I Fucked This Car Up, we find more stuff wrong. Thank you guys very much, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.